Land in Switzerland for the first time, and there's something strange you probably won't notice at first. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. This is one of the richest countries on the face of the earth. By wealth per adult, the Swiss sit at or near the very top of the entire world. There is more money per person packed into this small alpine country than almost anywhere else humans live, and you cannot see it anywhere. Walk through a Swiss city and there's no wall of flash, no sea of supercars, no neighborhood screaming their net worth at you. The person beside you on the spotless tram, plain coat, no visible logos, a bag they've clearly owned for years, may be worth more than nearly anyone on your street back home, and has given you no way to know it. The wealth is everywhere and visible nowhere. One of the richest places on the planet, and it looks to the naked eye almost aggressively ordinary. Now here's the part that should stop you. That invisibility is not an accident. It is the entire point. Over generations, a whole culture has quietly built its relationship with money around a principle that runs exactly opposite to the one most of us absorbed, without ever choosing it, that real wealth is private, quiet, and kept far out of sight, and that the people loudly performing wealth are usually the ones who have the least of it. There are 8 habits underneath it. 8 ordinary, almost boring practices that keep Swiss wealth both growing and invisible. And the unsettling thing for those of us raised on a different script, especially in America, is that on nearly every one of these 8, we've been trained to do the precise opposite. Not because we're foolish, but because we were handed a completely different set of instructions about what money is for. So let's walk through all 8, and by the end, you'll see your own money and the wealth you can and can't see all around you completely differently. To understand what the Swiss are actually doing, start in a quiet watchmaker's workshop. On the counter sits a fine Swiss watch. From the outside, it almost looks too simple. A clean face, thin hands, no shouting, no sparkle trying to prove anything. But the real value is not on the surface. The value is inside. Tiny gears, springs, and wheels moving with obsessive precision, hidden under the metal, working silently for decades. The outside is calm. The inside is doing all the work. That is exactly how the Swiss treat money. And it's the whole secret. They put their wealth into the hidden mechanism, saving, owning, planning, compounding, quiet, precise, running in the background, built to last generations. And they keep the surface plain on purpose, because the surface was never where the value lived. Now hold that against the script most of us were raised on, especially in America where the culture trains you to do the reverse, to pour everything into the visible surface, to make the outside as impressive as possible. The car, the house, the labels, the lifestyle other people can see. We were taught that looking rich and being rich are the same thing. And so we spend decades making the outside shine, while the Swiss quietly build the part nobody sees. 8 habits, every one of them is a choice between building the hidden mechanism and decorating the visible surface. Here's the first, and it's the one that makes all the others possible. The first habit is the foundation, because without it, none of the others can stay hidden. In Switzerland, you simply do not talk about money. Asking someone their salary, their net worth, what they paid for their home, is considered genuinely rude, an intrusion close to asking something deeply private. This is a country with a long, deep culture of financial discretion, and it runs all the way down to ordinary dinner tables. Money is treated as private the way most people treat medical records, and that single norm is what keeps the wealth invisible. At a dinner with friends, no one announces what they earn. At a neighborhood cafe, no one casually reveals the value of their apartment. At a family gathering, money is not turned into a performance for the room. If no one announces what they have, you can't read the room by its bank balances. The richest person and the most ordinary-looking person are on the surface indistinguishable. Now compare the script most of us live by, where money has become one of the loudest topics there is. Incomes compared, purchases posted, lifestyles broadcast to strangers all day long. We were taught that wealth is something to display. The Swiss were taught it's something to protect, and you cannot protect what you're constantly showing. The second habit genuinely shocks people raised on the American dream. In one of the wealthiest countries on earth, most people rent their homes. Switzerland has one of the lowest home ownership rates in the entire developed world. For a long stretch, well under half the population owned. Comfortable Swiss professionals, people who could easily buy, rent for decades without a flicker of embarrassment. And it's quietly brilliant for building invisible wealth. A Swiss family can live in a clean, well-kept apartment, walk to the tram, enjoy the city, and still not have every spare dollar trapped in the single largest, most visible status symbol there is. They don't stretch to the very edge of a mortgage just to prove they made it, so their money stays liquid, invested, and working in the background instead of locked into granite countertops. The script most of us absorb says the opposite, that renting is throwing money away, that a big owned house is the definition of having made it, that you should buy as much of it as the bank will allow. So we stretch for the maximum house and call it an investment, while the Swiss quietly rent, put the difference to work, and let the wealth grow where no one can see it. Now, Switzerland's housing market and tax system make renting structurally normal there in ways it isn't. everywhere, so the real lesson isn't always rent. It's don't treat the biggest visible house you can finance as the goal. The third habit is so ingrained it barely feels like a decision. The Swiss save consistently and seriously as a matter of course. Saving is treated as a basic adult responsibility, reinforced by a strong culture of private retirement saving layered on top of the public system. Money quietly set aside, year after year, is simply what responsible people do. This is not a dramatic habit. Nobody claps for it. It doesn't make for an impressive photo. It looks like an automatic transfer on payday. A retirement account getting funded before a vacation gets planned. A household budget with saving built in before the spending starts. But quiet, consistent saving is the engine of the whole hidden machine, the part that never stops turning. Nothing about it is visible or impressive in the moment. It just compounds, invisibly, for decades. Compare the script many of us run, where the default is to spend what comes in and save whatever happens to be left, which is often very little. Personal saving rates in the US have spent years down in the low single digits. We were trained to treat saving as the leftover. The Swiss treat it as the point and spending as the leftover. Flip those two, and everything downstream changes. The fourth habit is a hard line the Swiss draw that many of us never even see. They don't buy their lifestyle on credit. Financing everyday consumption, putting the car, the gadgets, the vacation, the wardrobe on monthly payments and revolving balances, carries real cultural stigma. Living within your means is the expectation, and consumer debt is something to be quietly ashamed of rather than normalized. They'll use credit as a tool, but funding a visible lifestyle with borrowed money is close to taboo. This matters enormously because lifestyle debt is one of the quietest wealth killers there is. Every finance status symbol comes with a stream of payments and interest. The nice car in the driveway is not just a car, it's a monthly obligation. The vacation paid for later is not just a vacation, it's a bill that follows you home. The wardrobe bought on credit is not just style, it's tomorrow's paycheck already spoken for. Now look at the script that surrounds most of us, where financing the lifestyle is simply how it's done. Balances carried as a normal fact of life, buy now, pay later at every checkout. The new car on a 7-year loan. We were taught that debt is the bridge to the life you want. The Swiss were taught it's grit in the gears, and they keep the mechanism clean. The fifth habit fits a country of watchmakers perfectly. Buy high quality, then keep it for a very long time. The instinct is to purchase fewer better things, durable, well-made, repairable, and hold on to them for years or decades rather than churning through cheap replacements or chasing the newest version. A good coat, a good tool, a good appliance is bought once and expected to last. You can see this in the small scenes of everyday life. A plain wool coat worn year after year, leather shoes repaired instead of replaced, a kitchen appliance kept because it still works, a bicycle maintained carefully through many seasons. Nothing about that looks flashy, but financially it is powerful. This is invisible wealth building in two ways at once. It quietly saves enormous money over time. One quality item kept for 15 years costs a fraction of replacing a cheap one over and over, and it sidesteps the entire upgrade cycle that drains so many households. And crucially, understated quality doesn't broadcast. A well-made plain coat says nothing to strangers. Compare the script most of us live inside, engineered around the opposite. Planned obsolescence, fast fashion, the newest model every year, the constant low-grade pressure to upgrade. We're trained to value the new. The Swiss value the lasting, and the lasting is dramatically cheaper and far quieter over a life. The sixth habit is the most visible, invisible thing of all. Even the genuinely wealthy stay understated. Flaunting money tends to be met with quiet disapproval rather than admiration. Ostentation reads not as success but as a lack of taste and discretion. The social reward runs the other way, toward blending in, toward a plain surface, toward giving away as little as possible about what you have. The wealthy look, on purpose, like everyone else. This means the wealthy business owner at the train station may not look different from the accountant, the teacher, or the retired neighbor standing beside him. No oversized logos. No need to turn every purchase into a public announcement. No hunger to make strangers understand the size of the bank account. The rich person in the room may be the one giving you the least information. This is where Americans tend to struggle most, because we live inside a culture where the entire point of money often is to be seen having it. The logos, the upgrades, the visible markers of arrival. We were taught that wealth is a thing you display to earn respect. The Swiss were taught that displaying it is slightly embarrassing, and that the respect worth having goes to the person who needs no display at all. One script spends the wealth to show it, the other keeps the wealth precisely by refusing to. The seventh habit is about time. Swiss financial culture leans heavily toward the long horizon. Stability, patience, prudence, planning that stretches across decades and often across generations, with wealth meant to be preserved and passed down rather than spent within a single lifetime. The mindset is closer to a steward maintaining something built to outlast them than a spender enjoying a windfall. This is a family thinking not just about this year's bonus, but about the child who will inherit the account, the grandchild who will inherit the business, the home that may stay in the family, the capital that must survive more than one lifetime. The goal is not to win one good year. The goal is to still be standing 50 years from now. A long horizon is what lets the hidden mechanism do its most powerful work, because compounding only becomes extraordinary when you leave it completely alone for a very long time. Patience is the engine's fuel. Now compare the script that surrounds most of us, tuned to the short term, instant gratification, get rich quick, the lottery ticket, the hot speculative bet, the lifestyle you want now financed against a future you'll deal with later. We were trained to want it fast. The Swiss were trained to want it permanent, and permanent, it turns out, is mostly a matter of being willing to wait. The eighth habit isn't really a tactic. It's the thing underneath all the others. The different answer to a question most of us never consciously asked. What is money actually for? For the Swiss, deeply shaped by a national emphasis on security, stability, and independence, money's job is to buy exactly those things. A fortress of self-reliance, the freedom to weather anything, the quiet certainty of being unshakable. Money is for safety and freedom, not for impressing anyone. This is money as a buffer against chaos. Money is the ability to handle a job loss without panic. Money is the calm of knowing the family is protected, the bills are covered, the future has been planned for, and no stranger's approval is required. It is not glamorous, it is stronger than glamorous. And once that's the goal, every other habit follows automatically. Of course, you stay quiet, save hard, avoid lifestyle debt, and keep the surface plain. Because none of that was ever about what others think. It was about building something solid underneath you. This is the deepest place the two scripts split. Most of us, especially in America, absorbed that money is for status, for signaling that you've made it, and so the money flows toward the show. The Swiss absorbed that money is for security, and so it flows into the fortress. Same paychecks. Opposite destinations is visible to everyone and gone in a generation, while the other is invisible to everyone and lasts for 3. Step back, because the 8 were never 8 separate tricks. They were one idea expressed 8 ways: build the invisible strength and keep the outside plain. Every habit was a choice to build the hidden mechanism instead of decorating the visible surface, to be quiet instead of loud, to save instead of show, to own the future instead of renting applause from strangers. And on every single one, the script most of us were handed points the opposite way. Not because we're worse with money, but because we were raised inside a machine built to keep us polishing the outside. Put rough numbers on the gap and it's staggering. Imagine 2 people earning the same solid income, where one quietly directs even an extra $900 a month into long-term savings and ownership, instead of visible lifestyle upgrades. At a long-run average of around 7% after inflation, that's roughly $150,000 in a decade and well over $1 million across a working life. Let that settle. The difference between the visible life and the invisible fortune isn't a bigger paycheck. It's where the money goes when nobody is watching. Now take 2 people who started in the same place, same job, same salary, same year, and call them the show and the structure. The show built outward, onto the surface the way most of us are taught to. Every raise became visible, the bigger place stretched for and proudly owned, the new financed car, the labels, the upgrades, the lifestyle the neighbors could admire. From the outside, the show looked like the obvious success story. For years, the one you'd point to and call wealthy. Everything looked polished. Almost no one ever asked what was underneath. The structure built inward the Swiss way, rented a comfortable place and felt no shame about it, saved relentlessly and quietly, refused to finance a lifestyle, bought good things and kept them, stayed understated, thought in decades and aimed the whole machine at security rather than show. For years, nobody pointed at the structure and thought anything at all. Plain surface, nothing to see. Then time did what it always does, and a hard season came. A downturn, a job lost, an emergency that tested what was really there. And the 2 lives finally showed their foundations. The show, all surface and little strength underneath, struggled the moment the bills came due. The visible life had been financed against a future that arrived with the bill, and there was almost nothing behind the surface to keep it running. The structure held. Quiet, unbothered, fully intact, enough to weather the season, choose freely, and eventually hand something solid to the next generation. Same salary, same years. One built the surface, one built the structure, and only one of them was still standing. So here's the whole idea compressed into a single shift you can make, starting today. You don't need to move to Zurich or adopt all 8 habits overnight. You need to change. One question: before the next purchase that's really about being seen, the upgrade, the label, the visible thing whose main job is to impress someone else, pause and ask the Swiss question underneath all 8 habits. Is this making me more secure and free, or just more visible? That single question, asked honestly and often, quietly redirects money from the show to the structure, which is the entire difference between the 2 lives. Then pick one habit from the 8, the one that lands hardest, and actually start it this week. Open the savings, kill the lifestyle payment. Keep the thing instead of upgrading it. And be clear about what this is and isn't, because it's easy to hear all of this as a sentence to a joyless, penny-pinching life. It's the opposite. Spending on what you genuinely love is one of the best uses of money there is. This was never about deprivation. It was about refusing to pour your one life's wealth onto a surface for strangers. So there's more of it left for the security, the freedom, and the few things you truly treasure. Go back, one last time, to that spotless Swiss tram and the unremarkable person sitting beside you in the plain coat. The one who might be worth more than anyone on your street, and who has given you no way to know it. You see them differently now. You know that the plainness isn't the absence of wealth. It's the proof of it, that the wealth is real and simply kept where you were never trained to look, in the savings, the ownership, the patience, the privacy, the long, quiet structure underneath. And you know the difference between that quiet fortune and the loud, financed version most of us were taught to chase was never income or luck. It was 8 quiet habits, and one different answer to what money is for. The Swiss aren't richer than everyone else by accident, and they're not hiding it to be secretive. They simply decided generations ago that wealth belongs in the hidden structure, silent, durable, built to outlast them, and that the plain surface on top was never the point. So the next time you're about to pour money into the visible part of your life, the upgrade, the display, the thing whose only real job is to be seen, pause just for a second and ask what you're really building, because the most valuable part of your money was never the part anyone else can see. It's the quiet strength underneath, still working long after the shine on every visible thing is worn away. Build the structure. Let them wonder.